Rise of the Ronin is an upcoming open world ARPG being developed by Team Ninja, the creators of the extremely successful Nioh series. The game has generated a significant amount of hype for around a year now since the official announcement trailer back in 2023 during PlayStation's State of Play livestream. It looks to be Team Ninja's magnum opus with a total of over 7 years in development since 2017, the better part of a decade ago, and the year Team Ninja released Nioh. From what Team Ninja has shown so far, the game looks like the most ambitious project they've put out so far, pushing the boundaries of what the team is comfortable with by introducing new gameplay features that haven't really been seen before in previous Team Ninja games. In this video, we'll be exploring everything we know so far about the story and its historical setting, the characters, the combat, and the gameplay itself, so let's check it out. In Rise of the Ronin, you play as a Ronin, a wandering samurai without allegiance to a lord or master during the Boshin War in the late 19th century of Japan. During this period, Japan was under severe political turmoil following the arrival of the USA in 1853 and the change in politics that ensued. Before their arrival, Japan had a feudal system and was an isolationist country that did not interact with other foreign powers. But with the arrival of America's black warships, Japan was forced by Western powers to end their isolationist foreign policy and subsequently undergo a rough transition to a democratic system. The story of Rise of the Ronin is not just set in this context, it very much embraces it. Its narrative will predominantly revolve around the Boshin War during this political turmoil and the three main factions who fought over the future of Japan. Your character will be fictional, a neutral Ronin turned mercenary who plays a massive role in the direction that this historical conflict takes. The three factions that you'll have to choose from include the Sabaku faction, the Tobaku faction, and the Obei faction. The Sabaku are a pro-shogunate group aiming to uphold the existing feudal system ruled by the Tokugawa shogunate, who have been in power for almost 3 centuries since just after the Battle of Sekigahara and the historical events that surrounded Nioh. This faction includes Ii Naosuke, a chief minister of the Tokugawa shogunate working with Western powers to open Japan's ports to foreign trade. Known for mercilessly suppressing his opposition, he is feared as the Red Demon of Ii, a nickname inherited from his ancestors. Alongside him in the faction is Taka Murayama, a geisha who in history created a movement against ending Japan's isolationist policies. On another side of this three-sided coin is the Tobaku faction, an anti-shogunate group made up of a diverse group of individuals who oppose the Tokugawa shogunate and are united in their desire to return political power to the emperor. In this faction, we have Ryoma Sakamoto, a Ronin with an earnest soul. As a master of the Hokushin Ito Ryo school of swordplay, he aims to take down the Tokugawa shogunate by uniting other anti-shogunate factions. The other prominent member of the faction is Kogoro Katsura, a feudal retainer of the Chosu clan, and a man known for being slightly addicted to sake. And for the final faction, the Obei are the Western forces of the Bakumatsu era and consisting of the US and European powers who seek to open Japan to foreign trade, hoping to end the country's isolationist policies. The most important figure in this faction is Commodore Matthew Perry, the man who began the entire conflict. At the order of the president, the fleet of black ships circumnavigated the globe to negotiate the opening of Japan's ports for trade. He is determined to incite the opening of Japan before any other Western power. Rivaling him in the Obei is Rutherford Alcock, a British diplomat tasked with assessing the value of Japan's integration into the global economy and reporting back his findings to his superiors. Despite denouncing the shogunate's exclusionary politics as barbaric, he has profound fascination for Japanese craftsmanship. There is a lot more historical context within the Boshin War that could probably be used to surmise the general direction that the plot of the game will take, but as of now it's all speculation since there has not been any confirmed storyline from Team Ninja yet. We can assume that they will likely take a spin on the real historical events of the Boshin War to create a fictional story, but to what extent is currently unknown. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how these characters in history interact with one another, and how you as a Ronin collude with different factions to shape Japan's future. Now, if you stuck with me through all that, let's get to the gameplay of Rise of the Ronin, which looks to be something similar to Ghost of Tsushima, but with a little more hack and slash. There will be 3 difficulty options to choose from for players that just want the narrative experience or want a real challenge, and players will also be able to co-op with each other in missions. To start, let's go over what the world has to offer. Rise of the Ronin is open world, as I just mentioned, and will be set in 3 major cities of Japan as well as the countryside, with the 3 cities combining spanning 27 square kilometers. The 3 cities will be Edo, the modern-day Tokyo, Kyoto, the imperial capital, and Yokohama, Japan's major port for international trade and their symbol of modernization. It's likely that each of these cities are connected to a specific faction in the Boshin War. Edo would be that of the pro-shogunate, as it's the political center of the Tokugawa shogunate. Kyoto can be connected to the anti-shogunate, since it's recognized as the imperial capital and symbolizes the power of the emperor. And Yokohama is an international port, so it can obviously be associated with the Obey, the Western forces who wish to open trade. With those possible connections in mind, it's definitely plausible that each city will contain characters, missions, or quests related to that specific faction. To explore these cities as well as the countryside, players will have a few options at their disposal. A bird-shaped glider, which can be used to coast across cities, a grappling hook to launch yourself above roofs, which you can put yourself in position to activate your glider, and a horse, which will likely be for exploring the countryside and the beach shown in the trailer. There was also a brief shot of a ship next to a port, which is probably just a trade ship in Yokohama Port, but could be some form of naval traversal. Characters in this world are more than just NPCs that you can talk to. They will provide you with missions and quests that you can complete to improve your bonds with certain characters. These characters will probably be the 6 mentioned in the story, but there's potential for many others to be introduced as well. Opting to forge bonds with specific individuals will alter the narrative, ultimately influencing Japan's future. That's not all, though, as the decision-making elements extend beyond just character interactions. Players will engage in conversations featuring multiple choice responses and make crucial choices like forming alliances or choosing to kill or spare an assassination target. We've been told not to expect a massive scale of branching options in the main story, but nevertheless, the idea of changing the course of history sounds quite compelling. For Team Ninja, players making choices that steer the story towards an ending is completely uncharted territory that we haven't really seen from them before, so it'll be interesting to see how they flesh this out. Aside from character relationships, other confirmed forms of progression in the game include Karma and XP. Karma has been hinted by Fumihiko Yasuda, the CEO of Team Ninja, to be a progression system that will punish dying, bringing a Souls-like element to the game. Not much is known about the system besides that you lose something upon death. All the developers have to say is that Karma symbolizes the destiny people carry from one life into the next. However, there is also an XP system which players do retain after death, perhaps to purchase skills and abilities to use in combat. Combat is known to be the bread and butter of Team Ninja games ever since the fast-paced and intricate combat system of Ninja Gaiden blew up way back in 2004. Since then, they've shown their mastery with both Nioh and Nioh 2, and it looks like they will be showing off again with Rise of the Ronin. Weapons you can use will include samurai weapons such as katanas, tanto, spears, bows, and Tanegashima rifles, which you may recognize from Nioh. Alongside these feudal-era weapons are firearms introduced by the new technology from the West, such as revolvers, muskets, and rifles, which you can use in tandem with your samurai weaponry, potentially being comparable to the combat of Like a Dragon Ishin, but in Team Ninja's own style. The basics behind the combat seem to include dodging glowing red attacks, parrying normal attacks, and using a wide arsenal of combat methods to defeat your enemies. For example, you can see the player using a katana or dual katanas lit on fire to deal extra damage to enemies. In one instance, we can actually see that the player deflects a fire arrow to light his katana on fire, and subsequently do twirling fire katana 360s on the poor archer. Another tool of combat will be the grappling hook, which can be used to pull yourself towards enemies and even throw explosive barrels at them and perhaps other environmental objects. There will also be cannons within the environment, so we can expect to have those available as well. There also appears to be many different abilities within the game, possibly from a skill tree similar to Nioh. In the trailer, we saw one returning ability from Nioh, the Azuna Drop, which launches an enemy into the air before grabbing them and slamming them down head first. There was also a move used against the sumo boss that launched the player over him to deliver a swift mid-air overhead attack. The last thing to mention about combat is a really surprising one, and that is that you'll be able to switch between characters mid-fight. This again is uncharted territory for Team Ninja and not very common in third-person RPGs in general, so it'll be interesting to see exactly how they pull this off. All in all, though, the combat seems amazing as expected, with some elements reminiscent of Nioh, which is definitely a plus. With 7 years of development, Rise of the Ronin is finally releasing in about 2 months on March 22nd. The game is going to be a PS5 exclusive, so unfortunately you'll not be able to play the game on PC, Xbox, or even PS4. As you probably know, this release date collides with Dragon's Dogma 2's release date, which is quite tragic as both games are going to have to compete on that day of launch. Needless to say, though, RPG gamers will be eating good this March. Final thoughts. Given the considerable amount of time that Team Ninja has invested in the development of Rise of the Ronin, I think it's safe to say that whatever is coming will be worth playing. Team Ninja generally has a great reputation for delivering polished games characterized by well-executed gameplay mechanics and engaging narrative settings, so I expect nothing less in this case. The only potential challenges I could see arising are from the introduction of features outside their traditional scope, such as crafting a branching story with multiple endings and creating an open-world environment. Nevertheless, I will definitely be checking the game out this coming March, if just for the combat alone, and I'm hopeful that Team Ninja can meet the community's high expectations. So that wraps up our video on Rise of the Ronin. Did you guys learn something in this video? Are you more excited after watching it? What are you looking forward to? Are you not going to be playing because of Dragon's Dogma 2 and will maybe pick this up later? Let me know in the comments below.